Hey, good morning, Caitlin. Oh, yeah. Good morning, Caitlin. This is Jen. I'm the I will be your host from CVCUE.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Hey, Caitlin, is there any chance you can make me co-host so we can put up the sponsor slides?
Of course, I just wasn't sure who was the co-host.
Sorry, Jen Almanzar. Sorry.
No, you're fine.
Oh, I got mine. I'm sorry. There,
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Jen, did I make you host or co-host?
Let me check.
I think I made you the host.
Oh, okay. Okay. Let me see.
I can reclaim it.
Yeah. Let me get out of here and then you could.
No, you're fine.
Are you sure? Okay.
Yeah, no, you're good.
Okay.
We'll have like 6 minutes.
Okay. Let me just.
also going to put my card back.
Good morning to everybody coming in. The session will start in just a few minutes. These are just some reminders to make sure that you guys are filling out the raffle, the evals at the end of the session to be put into the raffle. We've got some great prizes that we'll be giving away, so please make sure that you guys are filling out those evals. We want to make sure that every event is a great event, so we really take your feedback seriously. Caitlin will be presenting today, and you guys are in great hands, and she'll be taking that over in just a minute. Caitlin, I'll go ahead and stop sharing and you can take over.
Okay, great.
There. Oh.
Hi, everyone. You guys can hear me, correct? Actually, I can't see any of your videos. Yes, I am going to be recording this session, and I will upload it to YouTube, and I can share it out to you guys later. Okay, so we still have some people joining in. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. So this session, what we are going to be looking at is Pear Deck. But what's going to be best for you guys is to open up a second window and go ahead and go to joinpd.com just so you can join this session on Pear Deck. So if you just go to joinpd.com, you should be seeing the code. There you go. Code's on the screen. So joinpd.com, it's going to be kind of hard because you'll have two screens open. This obviously looks a little bit different in the classroom. But joinpd.com, and then you'll enter the code UPOOA, and you will be joining as a student. Okay. I hope you guys are doing well. This is definitely different for me. I'm used to doing in-person trainings, so not being able to see you or hear you guys is definitely a unique challenge here. But I hope you guys are doing well. Quarantine's treating you well. I'm trying not to go too stir crazy. So go ahead and get on joinpd.com. The code is UPOOA. As somebody already brought up, I am recording this session. So I'll upload that to YouTube and share it with you. When we finish the session through Pear Deck, they have a feature called Takeaway. So you'll actually receive a Google document with all of the slides, your responses, and links to all the resources. And that's one of the really cool things about Pear Deck is it records all of that and keeps it for you. Still got some people adding in. So if you just joined, if you could open up a new window and go to joinpd.com. It'll ask you to sign into a Google account and then enter the code, which is UPOOA. Underwhelmed pears officiate orange avocados. Because that makes a lot of sense. Yes, that's always exciting when my students figure out how to do windows side by side. It's definitely can be a little bit of a challenge. Okay, so 59 people. I'll just give you guys a couple of more minutes just to get logged in. So joinpd.com. And then the session code is UPOOA. Okay. Like I said, if you joined in, I'm recording this session just so you guys can view it later. Through Pear Deck, it collects your email addresses, so I'll be able to email that out to you. And then also when we finish the Pear Deck session, you'll receive a Google Doc with all of your responses. So you will have access to all of this. There's also the link to the presentation that is on the session document. that you can make a copy of and have for your own. I really don't think in an hour I'm going to get through the entire presentation, so I beefed it up with a lot of more sources and information for you guys to look at on your own. So if you just joined, if you can get onto Pear Deck, joinpd.com, and the code is UPOOA. I'm going to give you guys about 3 more minutes, and then we can go ahead and get started, just because we did have some people just join in. As the session is going through, the code will remain up here in the top right-hand corner. So if you accidentally log out or you join in later, you can access the presentation with that code.
Caitlin, do you have a host?
I'm sorry?
CVCUE? Do you have a host from CVCUE?
I do, yes.
Okay.
For some reason, I can't figure out how to do the co-host, and then I made her the host.
Okay, there's Jerry. I didn't see her
Yeah.
or him.
So joinpd.com, UPOOA. As you guys are getting on, I can tell you a little bit about myself. So my name is Caitlin Morgan. I am a social science teacher at Minarets High School, which is located just north of Fresno. So we are one-to-one with MacBook Airs, and we're tech focused as well as project-based learning. So this is my 7th year of teaching and my 5th year at Minarets. I mostly teach freshmen, and then I teach a digital journalism class. And I have been using Pear Deck really since probably my 1st or 2nd year of teaching, and it's really come a long way. So yeah, that's just a little bit about me. I've done presentations like this before with Pear Deck. This is my first virtual one. So this is fun, a lot of new learning and everything happening. Even for my students where we're one-to-one and they all have computers and everything, it's still been a major transition going full distance learning. Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and get started. If you just joined in, the login is to go to joinpd.com, and the code is UPOOA. As I've said, I'm recording this session, which I'll send out to you guys later, and when we finish the presentation, you will get a Google Doc with all of the resources and copy of the presentation. If you still need the code, it is located in the top right-hand corner as we move through the presentation. So if you get lost or you backspace, you do something, you can easily jump back in. Okay, so joinpd.com, UPOOA. So what we're going to be looking at today is Pear Deck. Pear Deck is a really powerful tool, as I mentioned, as you guys were getting on. I've been using Pear Deck for a really long time. And it's definitely taken on new forms and shapes and new features. And it's really perfect for the new learning environment that we are now faced with. So it's definitely a powerful tool. I'm gonna show you guys a little bit about it. So just some basic things. You guys are all muted. I do have the chat open. So if you have a question, you can type it in there, and then I can call on you and you can unmute yourself. Obviously, we've all had experiences with Zoom and the muting and background noise and everything. Obviously, it's helpful too if you guys are able to answer if it's something that I said. I've seen a lot of you guys sharing the codes and the URL, which I really appreciate. So yeah, just trying to keep it to one point at a time, making sure you're engaged, which Pear Deck is really, really good about keeping all of the participants engaged. As I mentioned, My name's Caitlin Morgan. I'm a teacher at Minarets High School. I've been teaching there for 7 years. I teach social science. I'm Google Certified Innovator, Pear Deck trainer, all that fun stuff. And yeah, I got my master's degree in educational technology at Boise State and my bachelor's and teaching credential at Fresno State. So yeah, that's just a little bit about me. I've been using technology a lot in the classroom. I'm sorry if you can hear the train in the background. I live near a train. So as I said, there are a lot of different resources in this presentation. So this slide is just links to slides for different sections. When you move through this by yourself, if you want to be able to reference it, that's just to make it easier for you. So first, what I want to do is just talk about what Pear Deck is. So Pear Deck has always been about giving powerful learning moments to every student every day. The reason I got into it was because I wanted a way to engage with my students and do checking for understanding. While I do, oh my goodness, I am so sorry. While I do like, sorry. While I do like, I was doing the Pear Share when I was teaching regular, not tech-based. It was just hard because no matter how many students I called on, I would still only be hearing from a handful of students. Where with Pear Deck, I'm able to hear from all of the students. And as you will see, it allows students to post their answers anonymously to the class, but you as the teacher can still see them. So it really gives a voice to all of the students and gives 100% engagement. So one of the first things is, this is a multiple choice question. So how much do you know about Pear Deck? I know there are some of you that may have already had experience with it, some of you who have never heard of it before, maybe you've tried it. It's been around for a while. And so I'm gonna just set a timer for 30 seconds, which is really handy, so it will lock the screen automatically for all of you as you're answering. If you're just joining in, the login code, if you go to joinpd.com, and the code is UPOOA. Oops, it looks like we need some more time. Yes, Pear Deck does have the timer put in automatically. I used to have to use it like side by side with like a Kagan timer, but now it's embedded. So it has the 30 seconds, 1 minute, and 3 minutes. And you can obviously re-click on it and add more time, but it's really useful, especially when you're walking around the classroom and you don't have to run to your computer to go lock the screen. Okay. As I said, what's nice about Pear Deck is the fact that you're able to see everybody's responses. So it looks like most of you know a little bit about Pear Deck, but maybe not a lot, or some of you guys use it all the time. So this is powerful for me to be able to see this. If I unlock the screen, it will actually, if you click around and change your answers, it updates in real time. So if you're having a conversation about something and maybe you're wanting to like measure, how the students feel about it, it will update in real time. This is obviously why the lock screen can be really powerful, because if you don't want students constantly moving stuff around, drawing on the slide, whatever it may be, that can obviously be a little frustrating. So just a little bit about Pear Deck. It is basically, now it's an add-on for Google Slides, so you can add this to already made presentations. And it really blurs the line between, checking for understanding and engagement. There are five different, excuse me, sorry, I'm just readjusting a couple of things. 5 different types of questions that you're able to use, and you're able to use this within Google Classroom. Not at the moment. for the question, is there a way to get the bar graph on the student's screen? So there are 3 different views which we'll go over. There's the projector view, which is the screen I'm sharing. Then there is the student view, which is what you guys are seeing. And then there's a dashboard, which we'll talk about, which the teacher can see. But yeah, so that's where the projector view becomes important for students can see it. On their screen, I believe it locks in, it shows you your answer so they can reflect on that. And the really great thing with Pear Deck is that you can use it with, asynchronous or synchronous learning. I've been doing more asynchronous just for convenience, but it's really flexible for both of those.
Caitlin, really quick, there's a question. Is there a big difference between Pear Deck and Nearpod?
I've used Nearpod a couple of times. It obviously may have changed too. What I like about Pear Deck is it tracks it through the students' Google accounts. So they're not entering their own names or, putting another student's name and trying to get them in trouble. So I've just always really liked Pear Deck for that. I know Nearpod is a similar product. But yes, I do believe you can use Pear Deck with Microsoft. I think they mean like logging in with a Microsoft account. They've actually opened it up to where you can do anonymous joining. I like to use the Google accounts, but I want to say there you can use Microsoft with it. Okay, so we're just going to go through some examples of different questions that you can use and the different question types that are there. I'm not so sure about the Microsoft Teams. I'm not as familiar with that. I'm a Google-based school, so if somebody else happens to know, that would be helpful. So this is a drawing question. So basically you should have the ability to draw on the screen. It's usually kind of fun to let the students figure things out, but you have the ability to type, which some of you are figuring it out. You can also draw on the screen. This can be a little bit concerning just because, they can draw or do whatever. As I'll show you though, there is a teacher view where I can see what everybody is doing. For example, Amy just drew a heart on hers. Some people are legitimately answering this, which I'm impressed with. Not a science teacher. Science has been a long time. So yeah, this is one of the types. Usually for drawing slides, I like to give about 3 minutes for students to be able to answer. There's all the different colors. I really like the draw feature. It makes the students really engaged and they enjoy it. Of course, there's always the silly kids that are gonna put silly things. And someone drew what I think is a bird or maybe a velociraptor. I could be wrong. Also, the thing that's nice about this is on the teacher view, as you guys know, I can see what you are doing. So let's say, someone's drawing something inappropriate or, needs a little bit of help. I can say something, to the class like, oh, Michelle, maybe that's not the best thing. Let's try doing something else. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and lock this. So now you're not able to draw on your screen. You're able to see what you drew. And we'll go through this, but there are actually a couple of different ways that you can show what the students did. Out of curiosity, are you guys seeing the chat screen on mine?
No.
My screen? No?
No, we don't.
Perfect, thank you. So you can go through one by one. Someone drew a nice little smiley face, a weird French fry. I like that. So you can go through it one by one. You can also show it more in the grid view, like this. So you can see it's just a little bit different of a view. You can see what everybody did. Or one that I'll use sometimes is overlay. So it overlays every single person's drawing, which can be a little bit chaotic, as we can see. But you can see the velociraptor bird thing that I was talking about. And this is where you do have to be a little bit careful if someone does something inappropriate. But as you'll see, there is a teacher side of it where you're able to track what everyone's doing. This is another feature that they have. It's called a draggable slide. No, you can't zoom in on one slide from the grid view. You could just show one example of it instead of showing all of them, but you can't really zoom in on one. So this is a draggable slide. So you can drag the little flag to where you think Algeria is in Africa. No judgments. A lot of my students think Africa is a country. So this is always a fun conversation in geography. And just to show you guys the real time. So this is it in real time when it doesn't want to lag. There we go. I usually like to keep the presentation just to hide the responses. There we go. It's just loading. It's a lot of information. But you can, you know, as you're moving it around, you can see people moving it. I like to keep it locked just to get, you know, authentic responses from the students. Because obviously then when you see everyone's putting it, you know, in the Northwest, everyone's going to start putting it there. The other really cool thing too is that you can do multiple draggables. So I've done this before with like political cartoons. So you use the yellow star to show where, you know, the United States is represented, and use the yellow dot to show where, you know, Nazi Germany is shown. And then you can actually isolate each of the individual icons to show where they're all located. Yes, so there is what's called a student paced mode, which I will hopefully have a chance to show you guys, where students can move through this themselves. And there's a new way where you can actually add audio, which is really, really helpful because sometimes you need a verbal explanation. So this is another type of question. This is good for math. So if you could estimate how many jelly beans can fit in this mason jar. Yes, you can create the draggables. Pear Deck is an add-on to Google Slides. So you would just put the image on, which I'll show you, and then you can choose the different icons. There's even a taco icon that you can use, which is fun. Wow, we're getting some really big estimates here. Okay, 3, 2, 1, I'm just gonna lock it. So what's nice about this, is it creates this number line. So you're able to see, you know, where all the responses from the least to the most. It makes that number line graph. Not a math teacher, but I can see this being useful. So yeah, this is the cool thing for math. I'm not going to pretend I'm a math person and embarrass myself. It will also show you which one was the most mentioned one, which looks like was 253. The thing that you can also do is like a follow-up question. My favorite thing is the short responses, just because I wanted students practicing for the SBAC or the Common Core testing, and, you know, being able to type answers on their screens. And then I found out about Pear Deck, and that's why I started using it. So this would be a good follow-up question that they put the number, but then have them explain their thinking. So yes, I can see people responding and typing. You don't have to hit enter to submit. It will submit it automatically. No judgments on your guys' responses. Total guess, 250. So this would be a good point where I could say, okay, I want you to explain your thinking. Why did you say 250? So I'm gonna go ahead and lock this and show responses. One thing that I mentioned that I personally really love about Pear Deck is the fact that it's anonymous from the student side. So when I'm showing this to you, you know, if there's the person who didn't answer the question, only myself and the student knows that it was them, where everybody else doesn't know. So this has really empowered my EL students, my SPED students, my very, very shy students to be engaged and answer questions. Also giving them more think time instead of just calling them on person is really, really powerful. And students always like to see their responses. If there's an inappropriate response, I can actually hide it from the students so they can't see it. I can also just put down certain ones that I want to see. If I just want to highlight like 1 or 2 answers, I can do that, which can be a fun, engaging thing that I'll pick like the 4 best answers. So kids are competing, you know, for getting their answer put up there. And then that's really exciting for them when that happens. Another really powerful tool or question type is embedding websites. So if you have a website that's HTTPS or it's secure, students can actually, without leaving the presentation, be engaged with the website on there. So you can do this with Google Docs, this balancing lab that you guys are playing with. The hard thing is from the teacher side, I can't see your screens for what you're doing. Oh shoot, I did that again. I swiped, I'm sorry. Oh my. I'm sorry. Technology doesn't like me right now. Oops. Yes, Newsela you can use as well. There we go. No.
I'm getting busy.
I know. I'm sorry. I don't know what's happening.
I got your screen over there. I got the screen over here, and I got the screen over here.
I know. I don't know why it's freaking out.
So you're being punished for being such an overachiever, Craig.
Sorry.
Okay, let me, oh my gosh. I am so sorry. Yeah, Pear Deck is very cool, except when it does this, then it's a little terrifying. I don't know what I did. Has it stopped? Okay.
Yes, you're good.
Fun fact, don't swipe because swiping is what makes them mad. So if you have a Mac, be warned, that has never happened to me before. So yes, now you can go back to the website. The thing that can be hard is it doesn't necessarily save your responses. It just takes you back to the website. But you can use Newsela. Bad swiper, no swiping. Yeah, seriously. You live and learn. So now I know. So you can use these embedded things. It's really nice if you just want to, you know, keep students within one screen. This is another example which some of you answered as I was trying to make everyone nauseous and motion sick. You know, you can do these type of checking questions. Pear Deck, when you first log in, also asks you about your mood, which can be really helpful when it comes to students. I once had students, we did a Pear Deck, and they were all in a really bad mood, which was actually really helpful to know. Because we were able to have a conversation about it, and it turns out something had happened in their, like, whatever class they had before math or something. So it was kind of helpful for me to know as a teacher that there was something going on outside of what was happening. And as I've mentioned, it is anonymous. So you can just, you know, get that feedback from there. So some of the teacher tools that you can use, there are 3 ways that you can join. The first way is the way that I did it, which was the joinpd.com. So you project it onto the screen. Students can log in with their Google accounts and get right in there. The other option, if you are a Google Classroom teacher, it's actually integrated with Google Classroom. I don't have a lot of experience with that because I don't use Google Classroom. But you can actually do it all within Classroom and students can join from there. And it obviously makes the takeaways a little bit easier. The other way, which I have never done, and I'm a little skeptical about it, is the anonymous join, where students are able to join anonymously. And I believe it creates, it gives them like a nickname and I think like an animal thing.
Lots and lots of animals.
Yes. So I've never used the anonymous. I like the join PD. I like being able to see who's participating and who's involved. I once had a student, for whatever reason, share the Pear Deck login with some random person that they met on like Discord. So this person joined in our live classroom session and was drawing really inappropriate images and pictures. Thankfully, I was able to see it because of the dashboard, and I had access to their email address as well as their name. And we were actually able to figure out, you know, the student that was involved and break it down. I thought there was a student sitting in the hallway doing it. So I personally just prefer the non-anonymous, but there are obviously lots of advantages for that. I'm going to skip this. So out of all the question types, so there's the short answer, choice, number, website, drawing, and draggable. Circle which one you're the most excited about. I almost swiped again, but I didn't. Lesson learned. So I'll give you guys like 30 seconds. I know for me, the one I probably use the least is numbers, just because social science teacher, but that can be a really powerful tool. The drawing tool can also be really powerful for math, for graphing equations. So yeah, and I originally started using it just because of the text, students being able to type responses. And the drawing feature has been really helpful as well. And I'm actually, okay, I like them all. I think that's just easier to say. So yeah, so we can overlay all of the responses to see the most common. And this is where it can get a little chaotic, especially since we have about 67 people on right now. So yeah, and you can obviously change the view and isolate it. So if you just want to do the grid layout, someone drew Pikachu. I appreciate that. You can do that as well as the list layout, going like one by one and seeing it. Yes, you can change the size of it. You can actually make it like transparent to highlight. You can change the color. That was super exciting when my students figured that out. So as I said, it shows the anonymous, it shows up anonymously for the students, and gives students an opportunity to be engaged and kind of have that, you know, the safety of people not knowing who put the response. If they typed, you know, they misspelled something. I have a lot of students who are dyslexic. So it makes them, what's the word? It empowers them to be able to respond and be involved. So sorry, I'm just looking at the question. I do project it when I'm in the regular classroom setting. So it's projected up on the board. And then that way students are able to see other students' responses. And then I will have the dashboard on a separate screen. I've already kind of discussed this, the different views that you can use. So there's a list, grid, and overlay, which you guys have all kind of experienced already. Obviously, each of these kind of have, you know, certain advantages or disadvantages depending on what you're doing. You can organize it by time or by like how quickly they responded, if you wanted to show the first responses first, or they could do it randomly. Yes, what are you using? I will sometimes, right now, I'm actually using my iPad for the dashboard just to make it easier. Sometimes it doesn't work as well on the staff Wi-Fi, but I'll just have two screens open on my computer and just have the dashboard open for them. Yeah, you can also use your cell phone. Pear Deck is accessible on any device. It's not like it has to just be a Chromebook or a MacBook. Like I said, you can show the multiple responses at once, or you can do the overlay. Students always really like to be able to see that. There are also some additional tools, which I probably won't have time to go into in full detail. I've mentioned there is the student paced Pear Deck. So students are able to move through a presentation on their own. This obviously, as we're learning with distance learning, takes a lot of structure. I learned early on you can't just give them a regular Pear Deck. because you're not going to be there to explain it. So student paced is really powerful. It's also good for the asynchronous learning. So students can access the learning and be engaged when it's convenient for them. The other thing is the flashcard factory. That is a little bit better for in-class activities. There's a little video example that you guys can look at, but basically it partners students up randomly, and they have a vocab word and the definition, and one person has to draw a picture, like an example, and then one person has to use the word in a sentence, and the two things have to match. I lost my train of thought. So that's obviously a better in-person example, and then you go through as a class and pick the best ones, and then you can actually export it to Quizlet, so students can actually study them later. So pro tips for making great asynchronous Pear Decks. Well, the other feature, which I was going to talk about, was adding audio, is very helpful. What I had been doing prior to the audio, I would actually make the Pear Deck and then record myself going through it and then upload it to Edpuzzle, which is a tool where you can add checking for understanding questions as you go through. I actually do have a section on this presentation for tips for both synchronous and asynchronous learning. But typically I have like an instructions slide. It's the first thing they see, and I explain that they're moving through it themselves, and then I ask them to draw like a smiley face to show that they understand what it is that they're supposed to be doing. And then if they don't put a smiley face, I kind of know that they didn't read the instructions. So that's always helpful. So what we've covered so far are the different experiences, presenter tools, dashboard functionality. So the next thing is that for attending this session, you guys get Pear Deck Premium for free for 3 months. Unfortunately, there is a premium and the free options. With the premium, you get access to the dashboard as well as the drawing and draggable slides. But if you guys follow this link and put in your information and sign in with your email, it will give you access for free for 3 months. Yes, it's definitely worth the premium. I've paid for it out of my own pocket before. I forget what the price is. It used to be $100. I want to say it's more now. I want to say like $130 maybe. But it's definitely worth it. It's very engaging. Will we get free if we've used it before? Yeah, you should be able to. There's been a bunch of people that have kind of kept getting the free code somehow, and they've been able to use it. It's obviously, they have a lot of plans where the school can buy it. But in my experience, oh, they're giving premium for free. I did not know that. That's good to know. Thank you. I lost my train of thought. But yes, the premium's definitely worth it with the dashboard and doing the student pace. I actually went 2 years without using the premium because I figured out some workarounds. But eventually I just gave in and got it. So I'm going to stay on this slide for another like minute or two, because if I change it, then it's going to disappear. So I'll give you guys a second. The next thing that I have would be to give you guys a chance to actually go into Google Slides, get the add-on, and start making your own. Would you guys like a chance to play with it while I'm here? Or would you rather me skip that and kind of just keep going through the slides? Obviously, you know, it's a little bit different. Okay, looks like a lot of skipping. Yeah, and I'm gonna give you guys a chance to get logged in and everything. You have access to this whole presentation if I make it through everything or not. Refusing to connect. I'm not sure what that means. When you get the takeaway with the Google Doc, it will also give you this URL. So if you need to access it, again, you will have that opportunity if it's not working. I don't believe there's a code to get it for free. I'd have to look up. I'm not familiar with what they're doing for COVID-19. But with this link, you can get it free for 3 months, which I guess is kind of a moot point. That's what I get for checking my emails. Not checking my emails. So yeah. So I'll give you guys a sec. The nice thing with Pear Deck, as I've already kind of mentioned, is that it's a slide add-on now. So you can actually build your decks within Google Slides, or you can access any old ones and add these checking for understanding questions as you go through. Pear Deck in the very beginning had its own kind of presentation thing where you could upload your own presentation. It was really, really clunky, and it wasn't ideal, and it wasn't really pretty. But now you can actually just use it within Google Slides. So you don't have to start over, start from scratch. You can go and upload your own presentation and add in those questions. It's super easy to use, much easier than it used to be. The only thing is when you present, you have to make sure you present using Pear Deck and not like the regular Google Slides presentation, because you won't have the engagement questions on there. I am not familiar with Jamboard, so I am not sure. Does anyone?
Oh, like a Jamboard within the Pear Deck? I think it would be separate. You can put a link to a Jamboard.
Yeah, I'm not sure. You can embed like websites if it's the secure HTTPS. Yeah, and then you can always too, when you put it in, it will give you a preview of what it will look like for the kids. So even if it doesn't fully embed the website within the presentation, it will give them the option to be able to click on it in a new page. Okay. Are you guys going to freak out if I change the presentation slide? Jamie, so yeah, your principal or whoever is in charge of your IT, they'll have to whitelist the application. Okay, so I'm going to change the slide. As I said, this next section was more for if you guys wanted to go through and play with it, but it seems like most of you just kind of want to keep going. So there are two different ways that you can access Pear Deck. You can use the add-on. So this is kind of a helpful screen to show you how to use it, very straightforward. The other way is going to the actual Pear Deck portion itself, the website. And then you can access your recent files. You can actually click create a presentation. It'll take you back to Google Slides and open it. You also have the vocabulary flashcard factory, which we talked about. And in there, you can see your recent files. So these are like some past presentations that I had done. For student-paced session, how many is too many slides? I don't necessarily think there's a magic number. I would usually just try to keep it down to what they would do in a normal class session. I have a block schedule, but usually I think the longest Pear Deck I've done is like 40 minutes. It just, oh my. It just kind of depends on what your students can handle. But I kind of like to opt for the shorter, because as it keeps going on, they may get disengaged with it and stop participating. So within the Pear Deck app itself, when you end a session, you can name it and save it. And you can reopen the session if you want. You can archive it. You can export the responses to a spreadsheet. So if you're wanting to, grade the responses like it was a quiz or something like that, you could do that. And then the takeaways, which is the document, it's sent to each student that participated. It gives them a Google Doc, and it shows all of their answers for the slides. So they're able to go back and review that. The only time I really will use the export to spreadsheet is when I do a student-paced Pear Deck. When you do a student pace, you can go back through each slide and see who is participating. I kind of like the spreadsheet, so I can easily see you know, this person was participating up until, you know, this slide, and then they stopped. So yeah, I like the export to spreadsheet for that. If you reopen the session after you've closed it, it keeps it. It will all be on there. So what I've done before is, you know, closed a session because we didn't finish it in the class period. And the next time I reopened it and the students logged back in and had all of their responses. In the spreadsheet, it's just the responses. You don't see the drawings. It will just say drawing on there. And then for draggables, it will tell you like the coordinates on the screen for where they drag that. So you can obviously go through it and review it yourself. But the spreadsheet's nice when it comes to
Onion rings?
you could mute your mic.
Calamari?
Okay. So yes, and then from there you can look through this. You'll present with Pear Decks. There's the class code as you guys kind of experienced. When you're on the screen, this is what you see from like the projector view. So you can toggle between the slides. You can show the responses. If you click and hold the lock button is how you get the timer. You can actually ask an impromptu question as you go through it. That maybe as the conversation's going through, you know, you decide you want to ask a question. So that will still show up in the takeaways as well as the spreadsheet. So for example, right now, oops, I can ask an impromptu question. So let's say they actually have templates and everything that you can use. Let's go with this one. So I just added this. This was not part of the original presentation. So then this is a draggable, so you can mark it. So if you kind of want to do a temperature check, you've been talking for too long, that sort of thing. Okay. Just as a heads up, we have about 10 more minutes. That's more for me than it is for you guys. And then when you finish a presentation, you can name it. So I'll name it by class periods just to keep track of it. And you can choose whether or not students get takeaways. The only reason I wouldn't publish the takeaways is if we didn't finish the deck. So if I'm gonna not restart, if I'm gonna continue with the next class period, I'll not mark that because they will get the entire presentation. And I don't want kids going through and, you know, then zoning out the next day. Does that mean you can just ask a question? Yeah, so you can ask like a short response. You can ask a draggable. You could have them draw if you wanted. So it's just impromptu. So it doesn't have to be planned ahead. So there are, it kind of depends, I think, on your teaching. Will they come back to the space that they were at if they dropped the connection-wise? Yes, so when you're using the Google Classroom account, or excuse me, just the Google account, it saves their responses. So if they rejoin, they're not gonna lose everything. It tracks it by their Google account. So yeah, so these are some of like the pro tips for synchronous instruction. Obviously everyone's doing something a little bit different. This is an example of doing synchronous instruction right now. It's definitely a little bit more of a challenge. So this really has tips for, you know, if you're trying to do this with distance learning, like using Zoom, you can help them set up their screens. This also has an example of a takeaway that you can see. So you guys are pretty much experiencing this right now. There we go. This screen's helpful. It has some of the best practices for video conferencing. So just some general tips and things for you guys to think about. Depending on what, I don't use Google Meet as much. My school's using Zoom. But like what I'm doing is I'm recording this so you guys can be able to reference it later. I just like recording it. If a student misses it, then they can see it. You could also make a self-paced Pear Deck that they can move through afterwards, but that can be a lot of work on your part. So there's a question, if you do the same Pear Deck with multiple classes, can you just start the same one again with the next class? So with that question, you could keep using the same section. I personally like to make a new presentation each time. And when you make one, if you have one that's ongoing, it will say, are you sure you want to start a new one? I just like it to keep it all separate so they're not seeing the previous responses from the other classes. But you can have multiple sessions going without it, conflicting with the other classes. For the self-paced option, I can skip down. I just want to show you guys a takeaway. So this is what you'll get is like a copy with the document, and so they're able to give feedback. I think this is taken to a YouTube video actually. But on this screen you can see it gives you a summary. So students can actually go back and reflect on their questions or add answers if they want. I have not personally done this. The students get a little confused by the takeaways, but this is also a great way to keep the learning going, that you can give them more feedback. But this is the section for the asynchronous learning. Personally, I just kind of like it because, for the students, not, everyone can get on at the same time. Yes, Amy, it's kind of like an exit ticket for that. So I really like that. And the thing that's nice now is that you can add in the audio. I haven't had a lot of experience with it, but that's definitely a powerful tool. So like I said, having an expectation slide, kind of outlining what you're expecting them to do. I like to do the, draw a smiley face so I know that you understand. A clear end time, reminding students where they can go for help, and there's even like a little sample expectations. What I've done before too is for students that were late, I will close the Pear Deck and then reopen a new student one if there are students that missed it for whatever reason. Obviously you want to give students plenty of time to go through and access this. So with the student pace mode, they're able to go through the presentation. I'm going to put you guys on student paced. So you will be able to move through the presentation at your own speed. So I can still keep presenting, but now you guys can actually go through and click through the presentation. So you can obviously kind of blend this if you want. I usually do it just kind of separately. But this allows students to go back, and on the teacher dashboard, it will show you which students are on which screen and how many students. So if you are doing this in class, it gives you that option. But student pace is really powerful, especially with the new learning, experiences that we're going through right now. So it lets them go through that, and I need to close that screen. So I can keep doing the projector view on here and go through it. Obviously, this wouldn't necessarily be ideal because half of you may be tuning me out right now because you're too busy clicking through the slides. You can obviously answer all of the questions just as you normally would. And then what I can do is I can turn off student paced. So I'm going to do that. And it's going to take you all back to the screen that we were on. It will keep your responses on there. The first time I did a student paced, I didn't really know what to expect, so I just gave them a Pear Deck and I was like, do it, it will be fantastic. And then they did it and it wasn't fantastic. So I had to undo it and then explain the slide. So there's definitely, an art form when it comes to the distance learning. Yeah, the takeaway feature is really fantastic. Especially I would have trouble when, I'd go through a presentation and the students weren't taking notes because they were engaged and they were typing stuff, but they wouldn't get a copy of the notes or a copy of the presentation, which is also helpful for EL or SPED students. So then they can review both the slides and their individual responses as they go through. And like you guys mentioned, the takeaways can be very powerful. The rest of it on here, I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything. are examples and sources that you can go through. They have pre-made lessons that you can use. For example, they have weekly wonders, which are templates. One is made each week. Yes, you could do that. You could embed a takeaway. You'd have to do it prior to that. So they have the weekly wonder templates. And as I said, you guys will have access to all of this after the presentation. Newsella now is doing the daily decks to interact with that. They also have the Be Internet Awesome, which is really good for digital citizenship. So that's something that I teach with my freshmen. They actually have a really cool little not website. It is a website, but it's like a game where they can, be internet safe and learn how to do all of that. So that's really cool. And it's like badges and everything. I kind of pick and choose what I use, but that's a really powerful resource. And they have lots of other demos and examples for things that you can do. There's also what's called the Orchard, where it's Pear Decks that other people have made. I believe if you just type Pear Deck and Orchard, that will come up. So yeah, I'm actually surprised I got through the majority of this presentation. The last thing, this is obviously Pear Deck is super responsive. It may seem like they're a really big organization, but they're actually a really small team. But like the other night I messaged them on Twitter and they messaged me back. They're super responsive. These are some of their links on there. The other thing is just the end of session evaluation. If you guys could do that. So yeah, and if you guys have any questions or anything, my information's all on there. I'm on Twitter. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the session. This is definitely a new experience. I really appreciate you guys being patient with me. Like the whole swiping thing was not fun. Do you use Google Meets or Zoom, and how do you set up your screen/views? I use Zoom. Personally, I actually haven't done a lot of the synchronous learning. This is my first experience with it, which I was really nervous. Swiping is not a good thing necessarily, but just having the multiple screens open, as I said, I have the dashboard open on my iPad. You could also have it on your phone, just because if you're trying to switch screens and you're doing the screen sharing, it gets a little complicated. I don't have any experience with the Google Translate Chrome extension. I'm not sure about that. So yeah, if you guys need anything, reach out to me. I saw some of you guys sharing my Twitter handle on there. As I said, it may take a little bit for the takeaway to be sent, but you'll get an email from me, and you'll get links to everything and everything that you'll need. No, Craig, I really appreciate your help. Thank you. And I'll upload this to YouTube so you guys can access it. So yeah, if you need anything, just let me know. And I hope you learned something new. It was great to meet you guys virtually, I guess. So yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Caitlin, so much for presenting today. Guys, don't forget, please also fill out the CVCUE evaluation form so that you can be put into the raffle for tomorrow. Great prizes again. Thank you so much, Caitlin.
Of course.
The one that Caitlin included is the CVCUE one.
Oh, perfect. I wasn't sure if she wanted a different one, or because I know sometimes they have her do different evaluations. So
No, it's the CVCUE one.
Thank you.
Awesome. So I'll leave this on if you guys are still going through it. But yeah, and I believe there is at 1:30 like a breakout session, maybe? I'm not completely sure.
Yeah, there's a 1 o'clock midnight pedagogy session.
There you go.
That session is on the main board. And that session is on, I think it's Tostas and Mimosas today.
Oh, cool.
No, it's not. Oh, it is Tostas and Mimosas.
Very cool.
So check it out.
Awesome. So I'll
So,
leave it for a few more.
I have a question, Caitlin,
Of course.
since this is the after party. I really like Edpuzzle too, and I wonder if you use both, and because Edpuzzle's much more limited, obviously,
Yeah.
but it's super simple and easy. So I wonder what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, as I said before they did the audio for Pear Deck, I would make the Pear Deck and everything, record myself doing a voiceover explaining it, and then uploading to Edpuzzle and adding those questions then. I've never tried embedding an Edpuzzle into a presentation. Do you have any experience with that?
No, because I've either done a Pear Deck, you know, on a very limited level asynchronously, just with multiple choice and text questions mostly, and some of their social emotional learning slides that are kind of fun.
Yeah.
And then I've made Edpuzzle videos from screencasts and that I've done myself. But what I really wanted to ask you was, I was at a training where Britannica Education talked about how they partnered with Pear Deck. Have you heard about this?
I have. I haven't had any details.
And they're like cranking out Pear Decks using Britannica's content.
Oh,
and that just blew me away because Britannica has so much great content.
Oh, that's awesome. I didn't know that.
And they're starting with science and social studies for middle school, 6 through 8. And that's kind of where they've started making the Pear Decks. So I just want to get my hands on those and look at them because I'm a social studies teacher like you.
Yeah.
And like, wow, even though I teach high school, I'm like, I can still use this stuff for distance learning if it's middle school.
Sure. Well, and the easy thing too is since it's a Google slide, you could always, modify it, and make it a little bit higher level if needed.
Yeah, and I think Britannica lets you copy their stuff and modify it. So it's sort of, I just need to find out more about that.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I was scrolling through something and I saw it, but I didn't get a chance to read it. But I think if you just Google it, something should come up, hopefully.
Oh yeah, I saw. That was in another session that I wrote that down at one point. It was like Britannica and launch packs.
Yeah, they're called launch packs. That's right.
Oh, okay.
They're called launch packs.
They've been doing so much lately that it's a little hard to keep track of everything.
Oh, Pear Deck? Yeah. They've just adding so many features. Like the audio was just added a few days ago, wasn't it?
It was, and I was like, I'm going to talk about that with my session, but I actually haven't experienced it. Craig,
yeah, so you're like, I'm presenting, and then like, whoa.
Yeah.
It covers up the whole slide though when you want to put in an audio. So you like put in the little link, and then like the tool when you actually go to record the audio covers up your whole screen, so you can't see what it is that you're talking about anymore.
Oh, that's
kind of
too
weird.
bad.
I think they have to do a little adjustment. Like if you like do it like a recording tool, like you just have like a little box or something, but their box is like so huge it covers up the whole screen. You'll have to see it.
Yeah.
They'll fix it.
Yeah.
There's no reason for it to do that.
Jessica, if it's disabled for the add-on, I would just email your IT person, and they should be able to. I think it's called whitelisting it. But
yeah, that's probably the issue. Is it needs to get whitelisted. Oh.
Well, are you on your personal computer but using your like work account? Yeah, so that's why even if you're not on your work computer, it's the Chrome store is blocked through the internet or whatever that would be called. But yeah, I've done that before too because I tried to work around it. So it still has to be whitelisted. Oh, that's weird. Maybe if she's using her personal email account. But yeah, I would just email them and then they can whitelist it. I don't see why it'd be a problem. My school district has just recently started doing that too. So it's been fun to get them to unblock all the stuff we need. Okie doke. Well, I'm going to go ahead and close everything out. You guys will get a takeaway. I'll upload the recording. I hope you guys have a good rest of your Sunday. Bye.
Bye.